everyone. Welcome to episode 26 of Georgia Living Podcast. I'm Celine Evans.
And I'm Chris Evans.
Welcome. All right, so it is now beyond spring break.
Spring break is over. And I feel like this spring break was chaos, not just because of, our three kids being at home, but also it seemed like everybody was gone. And like everything was delayed because of it. Whether like we had investors that were out of town, we had lenders that were traveling, we had underwriters that were traveling. Like getting answers and getting things done the last 2 weeks was a little stressful.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that's over. But, we were just talking, and it feels like being a parent at this age. We have elementary school kids, one coming into middle school. It's this never-ending cycle of being in a routine and then getting kicked out of your routine and then being in a routine. I don't know, Celine. How are you managing this? Because it's to me, it's chaos.
Well, I'm wearing my glasses today because everything's blurry. So, I think that tells you that, well, whenever I get tired, my eyes get blurry. So I'm very tired right now.
Yeah, it was a long week. I'm glad to be back in having the kids in school mode. That's refreshing. We get more work done. I think I'm more productive when that happens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who doesn't? Because you don't get, told mama or dad all the time. And,
right?
Yeah.
I mean
everything, you have to, like, put everything down and then pause everything that you're doing. And then it's a lot more work than you think, so.
Well, we had an early, like 8 o'clock meeting in Alpharetta this morning with a private equity group. And it was great because I got to tell the kids, I'm leaving with you. I have to be ready to go. I'm dropping you off at school, and then I'm going straight to a meeting. And they were surprisingly accommodating this morning. They didn't bug me. They fed themselves. They got ready for school. They got their water bottles. They were ready to go by the time I got dressed, which was nice. I live for those mornings because when everybody's operating on all cylinders, it's a magical thing.
Except I woke up because I was still asleep, so I woke up to like someone breathing on me. And I'm like thinking, what is this?
Our son was so excited to tell you about what he had done in his video game, and I had to tell him, I'm like, not now, buddy. We're getting ready. I want to hear about it. Tell me in the car ride. Mm-hmm. And I come out of the shower, and he's leaning over you, telling you about this video game. You're asleep. And I had to have the conversation. I'm like, buddy, let's have some patience. Don't wake up your mother. Let her sleep. It was one of those things.
But, so Minecraft is very, very popular right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard of a trend, and I don't know if I want to go and actually go to the movie theater with him to see this now that I've actually read about this. But there's a certain phrase that you use, and I'm not going to say it here. But you say it, and then apparently they trash the entire place.
Yeah, no thanks.
The entire...
Like the whole movie theater? Like kids
theater.
Are trashing movie theaters over the Minecraft movie? Hang on, I gotta look this up.
Well, I mean, so the phrase is chicken jockey, okay? And then they put popcorn all over the floors, and then it's just so much for these poor people who, are probably high school, whatever, they're doing what they need to do, but they have to clean this up in 30 minutes for the next show. So, I don't know. I don't know what causes them to do this. Maybe it's something in the film.
Director of a Minecraft movie speaks out over the film's viral chicken jockey trend, saying he sees no problem with the movie's teen fan base having a passion for poultry. It's weird when you're having too much fun and the cops get called, Jared Hess told Entertainment Weekly. I've seen so many funny videos. It's great. I'm just glad people are making memories with their friends and family. So this is the chicken jockey rallying cry pops up in the film when Jason Momoa's character, the garbage man, Garrison, fights a child zombie who rides a chicken, a.k.a. a chicken jockey. The two words sparked mayhem among moviegoers, causing at least several movie theaters to speak out and some instituting a new policy for the movie's teenage fan base.
I will not understand this ever, I don't think.
I don't either.
It's a
Gen Z trend.
We've never played games like that, so
I mean, I plead the fifth.
Know. I get
Plead
tired.
the fifth. Like, I'm not going to talk about the stuff I destroyed as a kid, but...
No, but you never played video games like that, or, you know?
No, but I did plenty of things I shouldn't have done in the real world.
That's just being a kid.
Well, I mean, in this chicken jockey, it's being a kid. You know, you want to throw popcorn and make a mess. It sucks for the movie theater. But
You know where you can
actually
have a lot of fun like this, though?
Where?
The Smyrna Jonquil Festival.
Oh, gosh. So we've got some great community events coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend going to the Smyrna Jonquil Festival and shouting chicken jockey and making a mess everywhere.
I don't think it would make sense.
No.
Because people like you and I would be there. I think you and me. People like I would be there.
You and I would be there, yes.
Yeah.
You had it right the first time.
I told you. It's exhausting.
Hopefully we're done with the last freeze for the year. I think we're on spring iteration 4 today. And the end of this month, so the 26th and 27th, the Smyrna Jonquil Festival is happening. Saturday 10 to 6, noon to 5 on Sunday. This is at the Village Green. And it's free admission. There's going to be over 150 art and crafts booths, 12 food booths, entertainment stage, children's activities. The food's going to include cotton candy, candy apples, corn dogs, hand-dipped ice cream, and more. So perfect family adventure afternoon. For more info, 770-423-1330. Also...
So,
go ahead.
At these booths, right?
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing when you were little? I can think of 2.
Funnel cake. Like...
Eating? Really?
The fat kid in me is all about some funnel cake. Or I was when I was younger.
You were not fat.
Candy apples, too. No, the inner fat kid. I didn't say I'm fat kid. It's like the inner persona.
You were so skinny, I didn't want to date you.
Yeah, I was a twig. But, you know, the inner fat kid in me was like, ooh, candy apples. Ooh, funnel cake. I love all of it. Give me the carny food. Can you say carny? I don't know.
I don't know either. So my 2 favorite memories are, the sand art where you layer it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I loved that when I was little. And also, I think it's actually happening this weekend, but the Renaissance Fair, look that up.
Wait,
The Georgia Renaissance Fair, I do believe, is here. And that has been going on for so long because I went with my aunt and my cousin before she moved to New York. And I remember, those tiny little, like, rice grains where they would write names on them?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you seen that in a while?
No, not in a long time.
That's a long time, right?
The Ren Fair is here.
Yay!
Yes. It opened on Saturday. This past Saturday, the 12th. It goes through June 1st. 10:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Rain or shine.
See, 40 years. It has been here for that long.
I mean, I went to the Ren Fair when I was a kid here. So
here?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the school did a field trip.
Where is it?
Let's see. Location. About.
I'm notorious for not knowing directions.
Fairburn.
Oh. There you go.
Yep. 6905 Verlin B. Smith Road in Fairburn, 30213. Information for the Georgia Renaissance Festival is at garenfest.com.
Yeah, so things that you can get there are the giant turkey legs, right?
Oh, yeah. Those were great. I loved watching, like, the metal crafters and the glass blowers. That was cool to me.
I don't think I have enough, like, power to make those glass things. I don't think I do. I don't think it would just be a big glass blob for me.
Okay.
Anyways, there's another one, Cobb Park Spring Arts Festival.
Yeah.
That's going to be on the 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And, of course, this is at Jim R. Miller Park, our favorite spot.
Right where I grew up.
Event Center, 2245 Callaway Road, Southwest in Marietta. And the admission's free.
Love it. Ackworth also has something going on. Same day. So April 26th, whether you're in...
Wait, I didn't finish with mine.
Sorry.
No. So at this arts festival, because I just told them that it's an art festival.
It is an art festival.
Yeah. But it's actually a celebration of creativity featuring handmade goods, fine arts, crafts and performing arts. Food vendors will be on site, offering a variety of options. You can call 770-528-8875 or email Parks Special Events at cobbcounty.org for more information. Now you can talk to them about Logan Farm.
Woohoo! So the weekend of April 26th, it's going to be a busy weekend, whether you're in North Cobb, Central Cobb, or South Cobb. You're in South Cobb, you've got Jonquil Festival. Central Cobb, you've got the Marietta Arts Festival. North Cobb, you've got Ackworth's live at Logan Farm Park. Gates open at 5 p.m. Music starts at 7. This is Logan Farm Park, which is 4405 Cherokee Street in Ackworth. It is free. Sponsor tables are available. Not sure if they're still available. And then this is going to be a live concert featuring the Weekend Getaway Band, which is R&B, jazz, funk, soul, Motown. And the event is a fundraiser for the Ackworth Arts Alliance, scholarships for art students, and underfunded programs. They will have food concessions by the 1885 Grill at 5 p.m., and parking is available at the Ackworth Community Center. More information can be had by calling 678-543-5777 or visiting ackworthartalliance.org/events.
And weather is so nice lately that we have so many of these events. We're switching from the yellow pollen to the ragweed pollen, and my nose is constantly on the verge of sneezing, I think. Yeah. This is the invisible stuff is what gets me.
This is how you separate the real Georgians from the people who just moved here, is by how they're handling this. You know, our seasoned veterans, you know, you just take that pill in the morning and move on. It ain't fun. Get your car wash, have one of those subscriptions, just do your drive-through, keep it clean. Otherwise, it's almost impossible.
They need to bring back yellow cars for Georgia.
They do. Yeah, bring back the yellow cars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Georgia edition.
So lots happening in our community. There's always something happening. But huge, I'm just excited that we get outdoor time again. Like,
yeah,
it's nice to not feel like you're
the twilight zone between winter and summer.
This is the time to be outdoors. If you're new to Georgia, if you're new to the area, get outside while you can.
And get your projects done outside, because pretty soon you're going to be baking.
It's going to be 95 degrees. 110 with the heat index, and you're not going to want to be outside. And, you know, then shortly after that, we'll have another little window in the fall, and then it's going to go down to being where you don't want to be outside because it's cold. So use this time wisely. Let's see.
Talk about real estate.
Let's talk about real estate. And we've covered a lot of market data on this show. I think I want to switch away from that a little bit. I want our listeners to walk away with some skill sets. I want you to leave knowing more about real estate today and something that's actionable, things that you need to pay attention to. So today we're going to talk about the types of ownership and how real estate is handled when somebody passes away at estate. Because a lot of the times we get in dealing with family and people passing, or kind of questions that we get from consumers about how to handle their situation, a lot of it is, I don't know what to do here. Mm-hmm. I don't know what my options are, and I don't know how I need to go about this. And by knowing this in advance, some of the things that we're going to cover, you may be able to head. You'll leave this episode knowing the resources you need to talk to and some options that are available so that you can make sure anything that you own is set up to not be a burden on the next generation or whoever's going to take care of it after you're gone. Celine, there's a few different types of home ownership. Why don't you cover the two most, you've got, cover 1 and 2.
Well, so for the regular person who doesn't do real estate full-time, right? Or, has never had a career in real estate, or is just a regular Joe, right? Usually they would think of either a renter or owner, and that's as far as the information goes. They don't know the differences between the types of owners, and there are actually quite a few, and there are about 6 of them, and not all of them are used. They can be pretty rare sometimes, but the first one is sole ownership, where an individual holds 100% of the interest in that. Now, this is not interest money-wise. This is actually interest in the property. Like, it's a legal term, I want to say.
Yeah, so you have share of ownership. If you have multiple owners, nobody owns it 100%. If you have a single owner, it is 100% owned by that individual. There's nobody else on title.
So you have to have a will or other legal document for this smooth transfer from you to the next person.
Yes.
So because it's up to you, it's all yours, 100%. Then there's tenancy in common. So a lot of people get married, like us, and so that is where two or more owners each hold a separate share. Does this mean that it's 50-50? No, you don't have to. You can actually have an unequal share or an interest. That's another synonym for that in this property.
And this one is not always married couples.
No.
Who else can have tenancy in common?
A lot of the times lately, we've had generational help in real estate transactions. So you can have a lot of mothers or fathers helping out their children purchase a house. More rare, you'll have other family members. It's usually a grandmother or a mother or father doing that. Or maybe a rich aunt that you have, or, whoever it may be. But the deceased owner's share from this tenancy in common passes to the heirs or directed by their will, rather than automatically to the co-owners. So that means that the other person who has the other part of this interest doesn't automatically get that. Yeah,
so if sometimes we'll see tenancy in common. In Georgia, the most common that we see this type of ownership is in investment ownership, where you have two individuals that are not related, but they're partners in their investments. And if one individual dies, say it's 50-50. One individual owns 50%, the other one owns 50%. If individual B passes away, that 50% doesn't go to partner A. It goes to the estate of partner B. So the ownership interest in whatever that property is then goes to either the spouse or the heirs of owner B. Usually sometimes there's agreements that can handle how that transfers out of state, but tenancy in common, if you are owning property in this, you still need a will, because if you don't have a will, it gets to probate, and then anybody who has a claim to the property can submit their claim, and then it's up to the courts to decide how that is split.
I'll reiterate this again later, but really, it's a lot of people don't like to think about death, right?
Yeah.
And the next step. But you have to set up your deed a certain way. So you have to think about these things before. I'll say it again after you go through all 6 of them, but you really should have an idea of what you want to do with what you have right now. Yeah. Especially if it's worth something and you're going to pass it down. You have to have instructions. So 3.
So 3. This is joint tenancy with rights of survivorship. How's this work, honey?
So that is equal shares amongst owners. So before we could have, 40-60. This one is equal. So if one owner dies, then the share automatically goes to the survivor. Joint tenancy, we see a lot with married couples. Now, remember, tenancy in common, more common in commercial, right? But doesn't mean that residential can't have it, because you can have a big investment, right?
Sometimes. So I'll complete your thought on this, and then I have something to chime in with.
Well, that's really it. Joint tenancy is really what I see on deeds for married couples.
So joint tenancy with rights of survivorship, WROS. Now, the rights of survivorship are important here, because in a joint tenancy with rights of survivorship, if one owner dies, the ownership interest from that owner reverts automatically to the other owner. This is important because if you are married and you pass away, in joint tenants with rights of survivorship, the spouse doesn't have to do anything with that property. Doesn't have to go through the court process, doesn't have to go through the will. The ownership directly goes to the other homeowner. As soon as a death certificate has been issued, the surviving spouse or owner can take that death certificate and then sell the property. And the death certificate is used in lieu of the signature of the deceased spouse. So it's just death certificate, signature, and then it's sold and it's clear title. Mm-hmm. Whereas tenancy in common that we just covered, where it's just the two, that doesn't work that way. So if one partner died in tenancy in common, the property would need to be probated, the ownership structure confirmed, and then the two new partners, the representative of the estate and the existing owner, would have to both sign in order to sell that property. And I'm going to throw a wrench in this because there's also tenancy in entirety. And we do not see that often in Georgia. It's not a Georgia thing. So a lot of these ownerships can be national, and every state does things a little differently. Tenancy in entirety is something that is not here. Where did my notes go? Here it is, right in front of me. They are for married couples, though, yep. And it's an automatic transfer to the surviving spouse, plus creditor protection in some cases. Mm-hmm. Not a Georgia thing. In Georgia, we use the joint tenants with rights of survivorship. Mm-hmm. That's the most common. Now, there's other ways that you can own property. Sometimes you can own it in a corporation. And in a corporation, it's going to be considered single ownership, the very first time, sole ownership that we did. If it's a partnership, you and an individual, then that can be a tenants in common. And then you have your joint tenants. You have your tenancy by the entirety. You can have trust ownership. So the property could be owned by a trust. And this would be for estate planning purposes. Hold on. Go ahead. So we've all watched Richie Rich. There's even a reboot on Disney that Is there really? Yeah, I just found out yesterday actually. Back. I know, and it's this live action version, not a cartoon. So it's back. I watched it yesterday. And you know, when you think of that, you think of trust funds, you know, the meme song that's trust going around. Babies. Trust fund baby finance. Or get a finance bro. Mm-hmm. So we've all heard about trust funds. What exactly are they? Because I'm sure that a lot of people know what they are, but there are a lot of people who don't either. A trust is a vehicle. It is an investment vehicle where you can have ownership of things, and it continues indefinitely. So there's in a trust, you have the trust itself, which is basically an account, and that account can own all sorts of things. The trust is managed by a trustee. That trustee can be an individual, or for larger trusts, that things like endowments, this can be, you know, a corporation. You can have wealth managers that their job is to operate the trust. And then the trust is managed by the trustee for beneficiaries. Beneficiaries are defined in the trust, and it's usually a member of the family, or it could be a certain group. And essentially they benefit from that ownership, but they don't own it directly. The trust owns it directly. And within that trust, there are certain protections and rules, which we're not going to get into. One, because I'm not a CPA or an active licensed financial professional, right? I don't do that anymore, so I'm not going to talk about the products that are out there. But when the trust that you described owns real estate, what happens? Because you have trust ownership as well. Yes. So in the event that the trust owns real estate, the real estate can be passed down generationally without really a change of ownership, because the trust owns it. You have a change of the beneficiaries, but not a change in ownership. And therefore, the tax it can be very beneficial for tax implications. And when you have lots of assets, one of the things that you need to do is make sure you're not paying too much in tax. So this is a vehicle that many use in conjunction with other vehicles. Corporations, like a corporation can be held in a trust. So you can have a property owned by a corporation. That corporation is owned by the trust. Like you can get
Twister.
It can become, what's that movie?
Inception?
Yes. It can become inception of different vehicles, and that's how finances can be pretty complicated. So the great things about a trust is that, like joint tenant with rights of survivorship, it avoids probate. Probate is the thing you want to avoid if you ever want to sell a house after somebody dies, because probate can take between 3 months and 3 years, depending
upon. It depends on where you live.
It depends on where you live.
Yeah.
It depends on the complexity. It depends on how many claimants there are to the estate. And when you don't have a will that dictates how things are going to go, you have to follow a certain process, and they have to advertise, and they have to try and track down heirs and things of that nature, and it becomes very complicated. So if you have more than one person that's set to inherit things when you pass, you need a will. And then we have community property, the next level of ownership, community property. And this is in certain states. We don't generally do this here. Well, we may or may not. Community property is defined by the courts, and in some states, spouses own property acquired during marriage equally, and then transfer upon death depends on the will and legal provisions within that law. Again, not an attorney, not a financial advisor. We're not going to dive down there. Just know that that is a thing that you should look at in your estate planning and how you're taking possession to properties.
But in Georgia, it's usually sole ownership with 100% interest. You have to have a will or legal document to pass it down. And then you also have the joint tenancy for married couples, where if one dies, the other gets it automatically without going into probate. Those are the two that we are commonly seeing here.
Yes, and generally speaking, before we move on, because the next thing we're going to talk about is what happens at the time of death. How do you handle the property? But when it comes to these different types of ownership, you got to think about where you are in life and what makes sense. Because if you're we have a lot of blended families, right? And in that you have, sometimes you have the spouses who have different estates. So in a situation like that, joint tenancy with rights of survivorship might not make sense for a married couple. You might want your share of that to go to your estate. So these are things that you want to think about in how you're structuring the property at the time that you take possession of it, because that's what matters, right? Joint tenancy, you're required to take possession of, you have unities of time, title, and time, title, interest, possession. There are all sorts of things that go into it that require, that line up with it from a legal standpoint. So when you're buying the property, when you're taking that title, is when you set the deed, and the deed is what has the restrictions for what can happen going forward. So knowing that we need to understand the type of ownership before we actually buy the house, now let's talk about what happens at the time of death when the property needs to be liquidated.
Sure. So say you just croaked right now. What do I do first? I order death certificates. Lots and lots of copies of them.
Yeah, we want 5 to 7 usually.
5 to 7, that's a lot for me. If you want to go overboard, I'm sure that the military, I think, does it for free, so you can get like 20 or 30 copies.
You don't need that many.
I know, I'm just saying. But the first step would be to get a death certificate.
That's very first. You're not doing anything. And
No,
just
you have
generally
to get
speaking,
that.
when a loved one dies, you don't do anything for at least a year. Like no major decisions. Don't not do nothing, but no major life uprooting decisions for the first year. Just
So let's certify you dead.
yes, I died.
Certified.
I'm certified. Now what?
All right. So now, depends on how much you're grieving, right? What would you like to do with the house? Well, have we talked about it?
Hopefully we have.
Yep. And if we have a will, then I need to go and look at the deed and see what kind of ownership it is.
Yes.
Right?
Very first.
And it's probably going to be joint tenancy because we're in Georgia.
And depending upon what state you're in, because I came into this same situation in South Carolina, sometimes the deed doesn't say what type of deed it is.
Oh, no.
And in which case, you should keep the records of your purchase with your estate documents in a safe place. Reach out to the closing attorney who settled the transaction. Their contact information is going to be in there. Their information as the firm is going to be on the deed as the firm that drafted it. You could just Google them, figure out if they're still in business. And then you want to just reach out to them, find out, hey, what type of deed do I have? If they're not still in business, you've owned it for 20, 30 years, they retired, call a local attorney or call a local realtor and ask them to pull a copy of your deed and look at it and tell, does this have to go to probate or not? I had to do that in South Carolina. It wasn't a joint tenants with rights of survivorship deed. It was a tenancy in common deed, but that had language in it that the South Carolina courts deemed as it's processed as a joint tenants with rights of survivorship.
See, every state does it differently.
Exactly. So you just need to go through the process of figuring out what you have first. Once you have figured out what you have,
then I'm going to go look for your will.
Find the will.
Our will. So each person gets their own will? Yep.
Yep.
So I have a will. He has a will.
Yep.
And what happens with that?
So because of how we title the property, we have some that are in a corporation, and the corporation in the will transfers to you.
Okay.
And then that would go through the estate process, and you would take ownership of the corporation. The property that is joint tenants with rights of survivorship, that will go directly to you.
But you have to have an affidavit of survivorship.
The affidavit of survivorship is the death certificate and the fact that you're still alive.
You have to have both, actually.
Yeah. So they may have that affidavit just signed as part of the closing paperwork.
Okay.
That could be a lawyer thing. But generally from the real estate side, attorneys have always told me we just need a certified copy of the death certificate because they file that with the county with the sale documents. So the new deed gets filed with the death certificate because the new deed won't have the previous owner's signature. The death certificate acts in lieu of that. There would probably be the affidavit. That makes sense that the attorney would do that as well. Okay, so got all the documents. Then you got to figure out what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to leave? Do you want to sell the house? Do you want to uproot? Do you want to stay there?
Up to you. Oh wait, no, you're dead. It's up to me now.
Yeah, it's up to you, Celine, because I'm no longer here. So in this situation, you need to have. I would highly encourage you to understand your finances.
Yes.
Make sure that you have the means to continue to maintain that property. If you don't have the means to maintain the property, then the next course of action that you need to look at is how can we continue to live? What do we have to do? What can we afford to live on? And in that, can we keep the property or do we have to dispose of the property in order to do so? This is why you don't make major decisions for a year. Unless you absolutely can't afford to live and everything has to be liquidated to start over, you want to take some time to make sure that you're not doing anything rash. You're going to uproot your whole life in the middle of grieving, and you really need to have that time to process things just to be healthy. So this is where professionals come in. Celine, who are some professionals that people should talk to as they're trying to figure out what these plans look like?
Definitely an estate attorney, I think.
And when should they talk to an estate attorney? Is that before or after?
Before.
If you don't plan, what's the old saying? It's like if you can plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's what it is. Okay? So if you fail to plan, you don't have everything in order, then once that death event happens, whoever that is, spouse, parent, whatever, whoever passes, you're going to have some impact from that. And if you have not implemented a plan, then the plan has fallen on you. The plan will create itself. And at that point, you're just trying to pick up the pieces. So you are going through the estate process. If there's no will, you're going to hire an estate attorney that's going to go through and help guide you through this. It can become much more expensive than it is to just plan the estate in advance. So you want to make sure that this is covered and that you know it's coming. Because oftentimes, in the worst situations ever, people will die. There's no life insurance, and there's no income from the second spouse. And
that's it.
And most of America is living paycheck to paycheck. So by the time when that happens, if there's no income coming in, how are you going to make those payments?
Pop quiz time. Okay. So, you know how you watch TV and a lot of it is fictional, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think about the reading of the will?
It never happens. No, nobody reads a will. There's no attorney coming bringing everybody together and putting them in a room where they can all duke it out. That's stupid.
No. I'm thinking of, what is it?
All these old murder mysteries.
Daniel Craig's most recent one, The Glass Onion or something like that.
Oh, yeah. That was good. Yeah. That was a good movie, by the way.
I think there was a reading of the will in that one because it was a whodunit mystery, right?
Yeah.
Classic Clue type of thing.
The Agatha Christie type.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All of those. Who's here? Everybody's gathering at the death. We're going to read the will and find out that you're cut out and you have everything. Nobody else got everything.
It's a surprise to everybody. No, that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't exist.
A lot of the times people know what's going to happen upon death because they've seen the will or they have been given a copy of it. Sometimes they don't.
And then they fight it out because there is no will. And then they just get into legal battles. And this is where it can draw out from years in probate to or from months to years. Yeah, it can be bad.
So the third person that you want to contact after you don't have a reading of the will.
Second.
Other than financial advisor, though, because we've already talked about...
Financial advisor is the second person.
Oh, I thought I already talked to the financial advisor.
You talked to the attorney.
Oh, okay. So now I need to find a financial advisor. Now, that is usually a person that you would know because they've been advising you for a long time. You don't have to be a billionaire to have a financial advisor.
No.
You really don't. I think that's a big misconception, kind of like you have to have 20% down payment for a house. That's not true. You can even get 100% financing. So you should have an advisor if you have assets. You really should. Sometimes they don't deal with people who have less than a minimum, but there are definitely people who are trying to create their portfolio because they're going to be there with you as you grow.
Oh, right? Yeah. There are different tiers. So when I say financial advisor, I don't mean somebody who's just selling you a mutual fund. There are, especially in Cobb County, we have some amazing financial advisory groups that some offer fee-only services. They will sit down with you for a fee and they will consult and they will help you create a portfolio that you just then put your money into, and then you can pay them annually to go through and do an assessment of your portfolio and a rebalancing of it. There are plenty that you can just go and open up a little IRA and, put $50 a month in from nothing. And then you get into the complexities where you need 17 different corporations, and then all of those corporations are managed by the family trust, and then you've got the trustee and the family that's managing a bunch of other things, and then it becomes very tax optimized. But you don't do that when you're putting $50 a week into your IRA. The important thing is that you get started, you have a professional that you trust and is knowledgeable, meaning their job is to understand finances, not to sell you a mutual fund.
Right, because money grows like a tree or a plant.
Yes.
You've got one stalk and then it branches out and you get more and more.
Exactly.
It's big and fluffy.
Yep.
Well, if you're growing kale.
Somebody who knows what they're doing. And these people are going to help you to navigate estate taxes, because a good financial advisor is also going to have a great CPA in their corner. If you don't have one yourself, they'll recommend it. They'll help you navigate to capital gains, which we'll talk about on the real estate side because there's some really nice estate features in owning real estate. And then they'll be able to help you when you're figuring out, okay, how much do I have to live on every month? What do I need to do in order to make sure that this is going to work long term? And how much can I take out from our retirement?
This is all very fresh in your mind.
This has never not been fresh in my mind because every 3 or 4 years we're going through a death of a loved one, and I'm the person in our family that is navigating a lot of this stuff and helping to at least put people in touch with the right people at the right time.
You're the go-to person, just like I'm the go-to person because our family is very short. I am 5'3", and he is
don't say it.
Short.
Yeah.
Taller than me though. That's fine. And
6'5" on a good day, inverted.
Anyway. Well, because I'm half Japanese and then he's Irish, so
What's that supposed to mean? There's plenty of tall Irish people.
Have you seen Michael
Just
Higgins,
not me.
the president of Ireland?
Just not me.
He is the most adorable short man ever with his giant. Well, they're not giant; they're regular size.
I come from leprechaun stock.
Next to Michael Higgins, he is. Anyways, so yes.
All right, so
I'm the thing is that I'm the go-to person for hemming pants.
Yes, you are.
Every time somebody purchases a new pair of trousers, it ends up at my door.
I seriously think that's selling yourself short, no pun intended, because you are the go-to for every single medical question, every doctor consult, everything that happens in our family.
Yeah.
You are a part of those conversations, and you translate all the doctor speak into like things I can understand.
Yeah.
And then I handle like the financial stuff, navigating accounts and paperwork and all that. So after your financial advisor, who else?
You call me.
Not me, because I'm dead.
Exactly. You're dead.
Yeah, in this situation.
X's on your eyes.
So you call a real estate agent. What's your agent going to help you with here?
Well, sometimes we're counselors. So
sometimes we are therapists. That is a real thing.
Yeah, it really is. No, but as far as business goes, really you're going to assist in valuing the property because if you're not in real estate, you might have an idea of what it's worth because of people, what they've sold near your home. But sometimes you don't because you live out in the country and you don't have any homes really close to you, or there just aren't homes that are selling. And that can happen here too, in the urban areas. And so then you're going to talk about what you want to do with a property, right? If you want to get rid of it, that's fine. Figure out where you want to go. And I don't know, maybe I want to go to a beach in Mexico, or I'm not so sure. But figure it out.
Nice to have options.
Yeah, and then they'll be able to help you with the whole transaction and talk to you about capital gains as well, because that is really something that, say I bought a property with you 4 years ago, and then it's skyrocketed in value because we had that whole period,
inflationary period,
of zero, interest rate from the Fed. So interest rates were very low back then in the 2s because the Fed had it at 0. So what am I going to do? I'm worried that it's valued way higher than when we bought it. What are you going to tell, or not you from the grave, but they're going to tell me that, oh, you know what? You're still within the capital gains bracket.
Yes. So we have a couple of things here. So you're still alive.
Yes.
So you have the choice of staying or going. As an owner in the property, if it's your primary residence, you get $250,000 in capital gain exclusion as a individual and $500,000 as a married filing joint couple. So if I buy the house for $400,000 and at my death it is let's call it $900,000, then it's a $500,000 appreciation.
But there's a time limit.
Hang on. So yeah, I can cover that. So there is a time limit from the date of death to the surviving spouse as to the window that can be sold for the $500,000 exclusion. I don't know that limit. A CPA told me it exists. That is up to them. You need to understand that time limit, because if I want to sell the property and I'm the surviving spouse, or Celine is going to sell this property, she needs to sell it before that time limit expires. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, that $500,000 exclusion drops down to $250,000 because she's a single sole owner of the property. And how the accounting happens there, I don't know. I don't spend my time in an accounting book. But there is a step down basis. So it will eventually go to a $250,000 exclusion, which means out of the $500,000 the house is appreciated, there's a chance that out of $250,000 of that, I'm going to have to pay capital gains.
Capital gains taxes are taxes on the amount that it has appreciated.
Yes. Now,
value.
The great thing about real estate is that there's something called a step-up basis. So I don't know the intricacies of how this works between husband and wife or spouses in this day and age. So but when the last survivor, the sole owner of the house, dies, and that goes to, say, the kids. So, Celine, you've owned the house, you never sell it. When you pass away and the house goes to the kids through your will...
I'm going to leave a boxing match in the living room and then say, duke it out. No.
At your death, the property is inherited at the market value. So the $500,000 that we have appreciated, they don't inherit the property at $400,000 where we bought it plus the $500,000 in appreciation. So there's no capital gains. They inherit it at $900,000, and it's part of the estate tax.
They don't inherit it at $400,000?
No, they inherit it at $900,000. It's a step-up basis. They inherit it at the market value at the time of death.
Okay.
And when and the estate tax is like a lifetime $10 million. So $10 million worth of assets can transfer from you to the kids tax-free at the time of death. So if we have $10 million worth of real estate at the time that we die, the kids inherit that, pay zero capital gains on it, and can turn around and sell it and take all the money. Or they can continue to own it, and then their baseline is the property value at the time of death, and then they would pay capital gains on anything that grows from there.
That makes sense.
So there is a very complex investment strategy in real estate called defer until you die.
Yeah.
In defer until you die, you can take a property that we buy at $100,000. That property can appreciate to $200,000. We can then sell that property, do a 1031 exchange, take the $100,000 that we appreciated, put it into another property. Now we're buying a property that's $400,000 with $100,000 down. That appreciates to $600,000. Then, and all the while, they're cash flow properties, so they're building, they're making us money. Mm-hmm. It appreciates to $600,000. We sell that property. Now we have $300,000 worth of appreciation. 4 to 6, 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have $300,000. We can do another 1031. We can take that $300,000.
This seems very familiar. I feel like we've written about this.
We have written about this. This is exactly what we did and how we moved the portfolio into Alaska, which is in this book, From the Ground Up.
It's on Amazon.
Written by Celine and co-authored by me. So This is a quick read, 109 pages, tells you how it works, and it kind of gives you an overview from our narrative as to how the real estate process can work for you. So you do this 3 or 4 times. Now you've got a property. So we sell, we take $300,000, we put 25% down. Now we're in a $1.1 million house or a $1.2 million investment, still leveraged. Yeah, well, just the portfolio. And at the time of death, it's worth 1.2. The beneficiaries of the estate inherit that at 1.2, pays zero capital gains. So we have then taken $300,000. It's grown. Any equity that's left in that transaction, it stays in there. It sells for 1.2. Any remaining debt on the property is paid off, and then the proceeds are kept by the estate. 0 capital gains. So defer until you die, and you can move property anywhere in the U.S. So we moved from Georgia to Alaska. We may decide in 30 years we want to move some of the Alaska properties to a beach or to another mountain or on another continent. I don't know. Or not another continent. It has to be domestic. You sell it in the States, you can't buy international. It has to be sold and transferred intrastate. So that is part of this. So having a good real estate agent that can guide you through these different transactions and help you to figure out where things need to be in place for your estate is imperative. And knowing that at the time of death, who needs to be talked to, who can help guide through the process, and just to be there as a resource who's trusted. You need somebody like that in your corner. And if you don't have them, call me, because I'm not dead yet. And this is up my wheelhouse. So we got a couple of key takeaways here. You want to plan it, or Celine, give us our takeaways.
So, takeaways. Get a will.
Get a will.
Yeah, it's really easy. It's not that complicated. There are online ones if you really, really don't want to get out of the house. They're not the best. If you really want to get a good will, then contact an attorney who does that exclusively. But really, it's going to make your life easier. You know, it's a task that is like doing laundry. You know, it's daunting, but do it.
And it's really not one of those things that's designed to make your life easier, because it's going to be a little bit more complicated for you. You got to take the time to do this. But it's a gift to those that you leave behind, because the amount of headache and stress that you save them by taking care of some stuff yourself and telling people what you want done, it goes miles. It stops arguments. It gives them exactly the rules to go by. You got to make sure it's updated, right? If you haven't looked at your will in the last 5 or 10 years, you got to go in there and check it.
Yeah, you've had another child or something, you know.
Update those beneficiaries.
A lot of the times the wording just says, you know, children.
Yeah, equally.
Yeah,
right.
Equally. So it doesn't matter if you had another one, but sometimes it doesn't. Depends on how it's worded. I really love the Revolutionary War ones where it says like the feather beds included, or the pair of gloves.
Because
you know, you're like,
the physical things that you own back then were your assets. That was your estate, right?
Yeah,
or your dowry.
A down pillow, and that was amazing, and a chest.
Yeah,
those are common things that I've seen in documents.
Those were priceless back then.
Oh yeah, you know, we should be very grateful for what we have.
Okay,
today.
so other than planning ahead, what else do people need to focus on?
Contact the right individuals, because yes, you can do it, but you know what? Give yourself a break. You're grieving. You can wait a little bit, but sometimes you can't, because there is a time limit in some cases. So make sure that at least you have contact with these people and know the immediate items that you have to do. Other items that you can wait on, then you can table it if you want to. But talk to somebody who does this every day for a living. They're going to know the best resources for you, and really they can tailor it to what you need.
Exactly. So y'all, if you haven't already, please subscribe, leave a review if you're on a podcast platform. If you're watching this on YouTube, then make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, share this with people, leave a comment, tell us what you like about it. But we're hoping to help this reach more and more people. So please help us help the community. Share this with somebody who needs to know about, real estate and estate planning. And then reach out if you have any questions about real estate or any of the events mentioned. We would love to talk to you and help you navigate any of the situations that you might find yourself in.
Especially Metro Atlanta area where we are. It all differs state by state, so you do want to make sure that you have state-specific information.
Yep, and a call is free, so never hurts to call and ask. We're happy to take the call. We're happy to hear your situation and see if there's anything we can do to help. So that was it, 26. We'll see you next week.
Like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, y'all.